for example, and we all pray it doesn't happen because everybody wants the W to come back. So my question is, if for some reason that there was a lockout and, the season didn't come back.
I feel like I can't say that there is or there isn't because I'm not 100% sure, but I know Unrivaled is prepared in so many different instances. And the biggest one being that we own the space that we play in.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to stay here year round as the players of Unrivaled with equity in this league and with space, financial money, all that stuff, we could stay here, train, play, put on another season if need be. So that's the beautiful thing. And that's why I'm so appreciative to be a part of a league like Unrivaled. And, even people out there, I know it's a touchy topic of like Project B, but at the same time, I'm so happy these entities are coming out here because now you have to move because there are challengers to you. You are not the sole entity of the best basketball players in the entire world anymore. There are other leagues out there that want to compete with you. And are you going to stand on business or are you not?
But first, you need to understand why people are even saying something this extreme. Because this season was the WNBA's golden moment. For the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like a niche product. It felt like something you had to pay attention to. Highlights everywhere, debate everywhere, fans arguing like it's the NBA playoffs. That's what momentum looks like. And the center of that momentum was obvious.
The fanfare Clark received from college carried over to the WNBA, which saw a historic year in attendance, viewership, and other key metrics. While Clark was the driving force of the sport's rise in popularity, other college stars such as fellow draftee Angel Reese and more recently Paige Beckers also brought significant followings to the WNBA. They had to mention them. They had to. It's part of the quota. Can't hold it against them. It's just part of their quota. Over time, it became clear Clark was a sort of rising tide that helped lift all boats. Driving force of the sport's rise. Clear Clark was the rising tide that lift all boats.
Caitlin Clark pulled casual fans into the sport, whether people like that fact or not. But now the conversation is shifting away from highlights and into something that can kill momentum overnight, the CBA. Because once fans hear words like no deal and season in jeopardy, they don't think, oh, they'll work it out. They think, wait, is this whole thing about to disappear? And that's why the title isn't random.
Because Rebecca Lobo actually criticized WNBA players for how they have completely mishandled these negotiations. She criticized WNBA players for their inability of maintaining support from the fan base. You had the fan support. All you had to do was shut the hell up. Instead, you displayed your unbelievable entitlement by calling million-dollar annual salaries a slap in the face. When I played in this dump, we were playing for prizes, free scooters, tricycles, just for men, and you have the audacity to complain about receiving $1 million you haven't earned?
Caitlin Clark era is over isn't a stat, it's a fear. It's the fear that the WNBA finally got the spotlight and is about to fumble it. Here's pressure point number 1. A lot of critics are pointing to a brutal idea. Interest drops off fast when Caitlin isn't the main event. In the transcript, the host brings up a number being thrown around for a rival product's championship game, around 30,000 viewers, and frames it as proof that the floor of women's basketball viewership is lower than people want to admit. Now, I'm not even saying that number is the entire truth of women's basketball, but I am saying this is how casual fans think. Casual fans don't care about context. They care about the vibe. And when the vibe becomes nobody's watching, it spreads like smoke. Therefore, you get the most dangerous narrative possible.
Well, it's Caitlin Clark bringing it to the league. Caitlin Clark drafted into the WNBA. Spotlight intensifies. Caitlin Clark puts the batteries in the players' back, making them believe that they have power that they absolutely do not wield. Oh, you guys aren't seeing that in the paragraph? Yeah, I figured I would just summarize it for you and give you the truth of the matter.
This league has one giant attention magnet and everything else is fragile. And if everything is fragile, you can't afford chaos.
Have not heard, I'm pretty sure you have, there is no updates with the CBA negotiations, man. And this is really starting to be very, very painful to report on, because as we know, we're supposed to be getting ready for none other than WNBA free agency. And as of right now, we're not getting ready for WNBA free agency. And as we prolong, now we're going into February with no deal being done. We're pretty much a month away from the deadline I predicted, to where all hell is going to break loose. And that is the month of March. We do not want to roll into March without having a CBA negotiation done, because if we roll into March, you can pretty much count the 2026 season over with, bro. Everything is going to be altered.
Pressure point number 2 is where the fear really kicks in, because the transcript frames the negotiations like this. The league is offering big increases, even life-changing money compared to where the WNBA used to be, but the players are signaling they want much more and they're willing to push hard. And when people hear that, they don't picture a normal negotiation, and they picture a standoff. They picture a season held hostage. They picture a work stoppage. That's why the transcript keeps circling one terrifying line.
Me and Sydney Colson were the only ones there this past week, because
everyone's doing Unrivaled.
That, and like, our CBA is so dumb right now that like it's heading towards the lockout. So
no progress.
No,
like just nothing.
Honestly, nothing. We get like weekly emails from the PA side of things, and it's just so dumb.
Can the league even be confident there will be a 2026 season? Because once that question is in the air, the damage starts before anything even happens. Sponsors start hesitating, networks start planning around risk, fans start emotionally checking out. But here's the part that makes this feel like self-sabotage to a lot of viewers. The transcript also makes the argument that WNBA economics are not NBA economics. It highlights rookies making roughly $70,000 to $80,000 for a short season, plus travel and benefits, and it frames that as a strong starting point relative to most jobs. Again, you can disagree with the tone of that argument, but you can't ignore what the argument does to the audience. It tells casual fans, this league is still building. And then it tells them, but people inside the league are acting like it's already finished building.
Surprise, the WNBA and its players will not come to an agreement on the CBA by the deadline, which is tomorrow. And I feel like if you've been following along with all of this CBA stuff, and this is kind of expected, it still seems like the league and its players are on opposite sides of the spectrum. And I personally do not know what it's going to take to get them to come to an agreement and for us to see a 2026 WNBA season. But unfortunately today, I have more bad news for you guys.
That mismatch creates resentment fast. Therefore, the fear grows. If the demands get too far ahead of the business, something snaps. Pressure point number 3 is the one that turns a negotiation into a scandal. The transcript strongly pushes a conflict of interest narrative. It claims that some of the player leadership involved in the labor talks also has ties to a competing league concept, and it argues the optics are insane. Now listen, I'm not here to declare guilt or innocence, but I am here to tell you what happens when fans believe the optics are dirty. They stop trusting the process. They start saying words like power play. They start saying words like leverage. They start saying words like sabotage. And once fans go there, every headline becomes gasoline. Now let me hit the strangest moment from the transcript, because it matters. The host points to a public criticism that basically comes down to leadership and the human element, like whether the commissioner reaches out when players get injured. And this is where fans lose it. Because if the league is staring at a possible 2026 crisis, and the loudest critique sounds like a customer service complaint, casual fans hear one thing. These people aren't treating this like a business emergency, but the public is treating it like a business emergency. Therefore, the gap widens between players and the audience, right when the league needs unity. And now we get to Caitlin Clark, because this is where your title lands emotionally. The transcript says what a lot of fans are whispering. Caitlin had a chance to be the voice of reason and publicly push a calmer message. Something like, Take the progress, lock in stability, then grow into bigger numbers. But instead, the feeling from that commentary is silence. And silence is dangerous in a panic cycle. Because silence becomes a story. Fans start projecting onto it. She doesn't want to get involved. She's protecting her brand. She agrees with the hardline stance. She's already planning her next move. And even if none of that is true, it still spreads. Therefore, the fear becomes, if the face of the moment isn't helping protect the moment, maybe the moment is already dying. Now let me explain the doom chain in plain English. If the league stumbles into a missed game situation, 3 things happen fast. 1, casual fans leave. They don't wait it out. They replace you with NFL, NBA, college sports, Netflix, anything. 2, sponsors pause. Brands hate uncertainty. They hate ugly headlines. They hate bets that feel unstable. 3, momentum resets. And momentum is the hardest thing to rebuild because you can't buy it. You earn it and you can lose it in a week. That's why people are saying golden moment. Because golden moments do not hang around politely. They expire. Okay, I promised a payoff, therefore here it is. Here's the chaos stopper framework. 3 steps. Step 1, build a public growth escalator. Stop arguing feelings, use triggers. If revenue hits X, salaries rise by Y. If media rights increase by Z, the cap climbs automatically. If viewership hits a target, bonuses kick in. No vague promises, no mystery. A visible ladder everyone can understand. Step 2, protect the season first, negotiate the upside second. Make one hard public rule. No missed games. Because the moment you miss games, you don't just lose money, you lose trust. And trust is what keeps casual fans showing up. Step 3, publish one simple scoreboard. Revenue, attendance, viewership, sponsorship growth. 1 page, updated regularly, because when fans can see progress, they stop inventing theories. They stop assuming the worst. They stop treating every rumor like the end of the world. And if the league doesn't do something like that, here's my warning. 2026 becomes a cliff. Not because the WNBA can't grow, but because the WNBA can't grow while it's fighting itself in public. So here's the question I want you to sit with. Is this a moment where players finally secure a fair future for everyone? Or is this the moment where the WNBA kills its golden opportunity right after it finally arrived? And if you're still watching, drop "save the season" in the comments.
Look like Caitlin Clark's name is coming up in all of this unrivaled ratings disaster, and ESPN finally told the truth about it all, man. Caitlin Clark minding her own business, going to Nike headquarters, shooting from anywhere from the steps. And I just got to be honest with you, man. To me, I don't think Caitlin give 2 flying about Unrivaled, bro. I just got to be honest. Now, there's people in the media trying to say that Unrivaled is failing due to Caitlin. No, they're failing because the product is bad.
Caitlin Clark just had one of those weeks where her name shows up in every corner of sports, not just WNBA, everywhere. One headline says her off-season move is starting to surface. Another asks the same question fans keep arguing about. Is she playing in Unrivaled or not? But the biggest fire this week is not even about a game. It's the WNBA deadline talk. Because once the internet smells deadline ignored, the story changes. It stops feeling like business and starts feeling like a fight. And in sports fights, there is always one person who becomes the symbol.
See, people can say what they want. Caitlin Clark is simply the driving force behind a lot of the WNBA recent success, and it looked like ESPN has completely admitted it. Now, that's a reality check of a lifetime, dog. I just got to keep it real. Now, with that being said, man, I want to share something here with you guys.
Therefore, the league's biggest week turns into the same conversation. What happens if the WNBA enters chaos, with Caitlin Clark at the center of it? And here's the wild part. In the same week, people are throwing around words like lockout, crisis, and leverage. Caitlin is also trending for talking about LeBron. reacting to an NBA player's breakout, and even popping up in NFL news.
LeBron never messaged me like directly, but it's been cool to like just see his support of myself and the W overall. Like you can tell he really watches and turns it on, and yeah, like he's been kind of a big fan of myself from college and now in the W. So, I mean, he's the greatest basketball player of all time, so I think that's pretty cool. I don't want to compare myself to anybody else. I don't like that.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing to conjure.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, like, I hate saying this because LeBron is like the greatest basketball player of all time, but obviously he didn't even go to college and he had all these expectations coming out of high school to be like the greatest player ever, and obviously that's a lot. Like that's a lot to take on your shoulders and a lot for the NBA at the time.
That is not normal. That is what it looks like when one athlete becomes the main character of the entire sports cycle. Let's start with the thing everyone keeps circling, the offseason. This week, multiple outlets push the same theme in different ways. Caitlin Clark's next move is becoming a story by itself. Even when nothing is official, the rumors do what rumors always do. They create teams in people's heads. One side says she should protect her body, rest, and come back even sharper. The other side says if she plays, she breaks the internet again. Therefore, the unrivaled question won't die. Is she in or is she out? And notice how strange that is.
Now, I told y'all last year that Unrivaled was on a needle and a thread contract because that means that they kind of on borrowed time. If this thing don't work, guess what they're going to do? They're going to ball it up and can it. And that's exactly possibly what's about to go down with Unrivaled, bruh. I haven't watched any of it. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I ain't going to get on here and lie. And I know many of you guys probably have not watched it either, but it's quite funny hearing all of the bad stories coming out about the show. Then people had the nerve to get mad that Caitlin Clark didn't do it. Caitlin Clark didn't want to associate herself with this buffoonery, with this dumpster fire. Y'all really think Caitlin Clark wanted to be a part of that? Her brand is too big and too special to be a part of this damn circus. It's bad enough she got to play in the WNBA, Ribleys, and I'm here to tell you, she definitely didn't want to take on this goddamn me circus.
Most WNBA players can have a quiet offseason. Caitlin can't. Because her offseason isn't treated like downtime. It's treated like a national decision. But Unrivaled isn't just about fitness or basketball. It's about power. If Caitlin joins, it validates the league. If she doesn't, people treat it like a rejection. That's why even a simple maybe becomes a full week of headlines. And this is where it gets even more interesting. You also had a headline about Kate Martin basically pitching the idea of getting Caitlin to Unrivaled. That matters because it shows something real. Caitlin isn't being chased like a normal star. She's being recruited like a franchise. Now let's talk about the week's most explosive angle, the WNBA deadline talk. This is the one that turns everything into gasoline. Because when a deadline is mentioned, fans don't hear negotiation. They hear war. And once the word lockout shows up near Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, the story becomes bigger than basketball. It becomes fear. Fear of lost games. Fear of lost momentum. Fear that the league finally has attention and will fumble it. But here's what really makes this angle viral. Caitlin's name becomes leverage for both sides. Fans will say, you can't waste the Clark era. Players will say, you can't profit off this era without paying fairly. Owners will say, we have to make the numbers work. Therefore, Caitlin ends up in the middle, even if she never says a word. And that leads into the most dramatic headline of the week. The one basically saying fans are debating if Caitlin will accidentally destroy the WNBA. That's an insane phrase, but it reveals something true about the moment. People don't know how to handle a superstar this big inside a league that is still building its structure. So they turn it into extremes. She's saving the league. She's exposing the league. She's bigger than the league. The league can't control the wave. But the real point is simpler. Caitlin is forcing pressure onto everything that used to hide in the shadows. Scheduling, officiating, marketing, pay, media narratives. That's why every argument feels personal now. Because when the money grows, the stakes grow. And when the stakes grow, everybody fights harder to control the story. Now here's the part that makes this week feel surreal. While all of that WNBA chaos is happening, Caitlyn also trended for stepping into the NBA's favorite fight, the GOAT debate. One headline pushed the idea that she ended the GOAT debate by saying LeBron is the best ever. Whether you agree or not, it's a perfect example of the Clark effect. A WNBA player says a sentence, and it becomes an internet war. Because Caitlyn isn't just watched by WNBA fans, she's watched by NBA fans. She's watched by sports media. She's watched by people who don't even watch women's basketball, but still react to her, like she's part of the main NBA conversation. Therefore, her opinion doesn't land like a normal opinion. It lands like a headline, and the crossover didn't stop there. Another story had Caitlyn showing up in NFL news, with mentions tied to George Kittle's injury situation. Again, it's not just nice message content, it's proof of cultural reach. When Caitlyn is part of the same news cycle as the NFL, it means she's not being treated like a niche star. She's being treated like a top-tier American sports figure. But the sneakiest story this week is the one that sounds small. Caitlyn reacting to an NBA player's breakout stretch. That seems harmless, but it's actually another example of how the media uses her. Because Caitlyn reacting is content now. Her 2 words can become a story. That's the reality of celebrity-level attention. The reaction becomes the product. And finally, you had the pay gap headline. Women shut out again from the list of top 100 highest paid athletes. That story always hits harder when Caitlyn is in the conversation, because she's the easiest example of how big women's sports can get, and how far the money still has to go. Therefore, this week wasn't just random news. It was one clear message. The sport is growing, but the system is stressed. Put all of this together and you get the real headline of the week. Caitlyn Clark has become the pressure test for the entire league. If the WNBA handles this era well, it becomes the next major sports machine. But if the league misplays the moment, the anger won't be quiet. Because the attention is too big now. The off-season rumors show how every move becomes a national event. The unrivaled talk shows how her presence can validate or crush a project. The deadline and lockout language shows how fragile the business side still feels. The destroy the WNBA debate shows how people sense the league isn't fully built for a superstar this massive. And the NBA and NFL crossover shows something even bigger. Caitlyn is not fighting for relevance anymore. The league is fighting to keep up with her relevance. Therefore, next week is going to be even louder. Because deadlines don't fade away, they collide. And when they collide, Caitlyn Clark's name is going to be the first thing everyone tries to use. If you're still watching, drop Weekly Clark in the comments.